Coach Appleby, it is great to see you again. Thanks for joining me on this Simple Coach to Coach. You are one of the originals who crazily decided to start doing interviews with me. So I do appreciate you taking the time. Really excited for us to talk. So.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, I start with the basics, which is good year from my perspective, but I just want to hear what your thoughts on the past season were. Did it meet expectations? Were you disappointed? That sort of thing. So I leave you I cede you the floor.
Right. Last year was a crazy one.
Is it ever not?
Well, I mean, in some years, like things kind of move in the direction that you think they're going to move. And I don't know if last season followed that direction. I knew that were going to be some weaknesses. We lost an All-American center back, graduated a keeper that was, a grad transfer that I thought should have been an All-American or definitely in the mix. And so we're replacing key functions to our team that I thought we could, if that was the gap, we're bringing in talent in other places that could, there'd still be a gap, but we close the gap there. We definitely had attacking pieces that we didn't have in 22. That was very exciting for us. But yeah, I think defensively and our style of play wasn't quite locked down. And so it opened up crazy games for us. And so the season was a topsy-turvy affair where, we're dominating games, we're winning, and then we're also giving up games or tying games that we felt like we were dominating, but kind of like where Man City. I mean, we're not Man City, but Man City's having a much better season than we did. But you watch Man City and they dominate so much, but then this season's pretty much count on them giving up a goal. And in previous seasons, we pretty much locked down defense because we held the ball so long. But this year we were giving up a lot of goals, and things didn't seem as secure as they had in the past. But we were scoring a lot more goals, so it kind of we dropped in some area, raised in an area, and so it was just a different kind of season for us than previous seasons. And so I probably it caused me some heart problems and some digestive problems and stuff like that. But that's why you coach too, because coaching's and playing is all about experiences. You go through these experiences, you tag them as something that you grow. You tag that experience as a growth experience, and it helps you hopefully get stronger as a team, a program, and as a coach.
Knowing you lost the All-American, I mean, was this a little bit to be expected, or were you thinking that you were going to lock it down a little bit better than you did?
I thought, yeah. I mean, I knew it was going to be a gap for us. I thought we would close the gap a little bit more than what we did. I think in the past, as we rotated out guys who played in those center back positions, the guys that kind of were the seniors, the leadership, were captains. And so they had a very strong presence and they taught the next guy very well. And we didn't have that leadership presence returning in that position. And so we had a freshman come in. He was dealing with some injuries from over the summer. And so he was a little bit more running on his own than having somebody right there on his side helping him through it. I tried to fill the gap, but then that comes across as like I'm a little bit overbearing, so I had to back off of him, build him up a little bit more. even though, hey, we're losing games. We got to figure this out. Um, so, I mean, that was just one piece of it. I think, we talked some point during the season where I said I was going to make a major shift, and that major shift was taking a winger and making him center back, which, yeah, I think it looked crazy at the time, and there were some moments to make me reflect as to, am I getting this right or not? I believe it was the right move, but it was back and forth on the borderline. It wasn't like the right move, easily, understandably the right move. It had some nervy moments, but I think it did get us to where uh, we got to, and I'm not sure we would have made that. Possibly not won the conference and made it like through the Babson game and competed well in the Middlebury game without without that change.
I will say the thing I noticed in having watched you, it was interesting to me, especially the games that you tied. I think last year you would have won by 1-0 rather than tying 1-1. And I always thought there was and just watching you in general, that there was a vulnerability to when the other team was in your defensive third. I just thought you looked a little bit more vulnerable than you had in the past, which may or may not explain sort of the way sort of your season went. But like I said, I think when you were really good, and I thought you were really good last year, I just thought those 1-1 games or those 2-1 games or what those close games weren't close because you had such a really solid defensive posture, and in possession you were just as good, and in possession or out of possession. So that was just my perspective.
Yeah, I won't disagree with.
Yeah. You'd never disagree with me. No, I'm just kidding. This all started because we disagreed.
Right.
Anyhow, when you finished the season, did you expect? I mean, and going into the Centennial, were you?
We lost the last game 4-2.
Yeah.
So, this whole we like the second game of the season, we played Mary Washington. I thought we were doing the first half. We were fine, and then the second half fell apart.
Yeah.
Like, and when I say fine, I felt like we were just knocking on the door to get a goal, and then they got a free kick right before the end of the first half. They nailed it.
Yeah.
Like,
class
from
goal.
the season before. So
Yeah.
this is funny. The season before the Stevens Tech, I was really out of sorts because our wall jumped and
Yeah.
like turned, and
Yeah.
so the ball went through the wall. So I'm telling the guys, like, my coaching point is like, hold steady in the wall.
Yeah.
What's the percentage of, how often do guys actually get over the wall and hit that spot perfect? It doesn't happen that often. And then boom. Well, there it is. So it's like, well, forget that coaching point.
Yeah.
But yeah, that really, like, it was difficult to try to get them back at halftime. We had a lot of new guys playing, and so still sorting out who works best playing with who. The preseason is such a limited time frame to kind of figure those things out. Plus, we have limitations on how much we're allowed to do at certain levels of preseason.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the whole season was just a roller coaster ride. There was very high ups, there was very low downs, and that was all season. So coming into, I thought we established some rhythm, and then we hit the Dickinson game and lost 4-2. I was like, well, we lost that rhythm, but then we found rhythm again and rode it out to I feel like the rest of the way, like even though
Yeah.
we lost Middlebury, it was a great game.
Yeah.
Like, was super proud of our guys. We were in a huge deficit because of the Babson game
Hmm.
beforehand. So, like, to respond how we did in that Middlebury game, we lose 2-1, but it, the effort was there, the play
Yeah.
was there. I was super proud of them.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, in considering, right? Like it probably was in spite of all that, like you gain some momentum, and you get you get the momentum pulled back. I mean, it must have felt good to actually getting through winning the Centennial Conference, right? I mean, that must have been like, hey, in spite of it all, we
Yeah,
managed to get to this point. Um, and I think that Muhlenberg game was much more the game I expected from the last year, where I said, the 1-1 games and the 2-1 games, and you wouldn't concede. And that game looked like you were the team of old, right? Where you're defensively, you were a little bit more secure. Um, and for a team that you tied 1-1, you turn around and beat them 1-0. I thought that was much more appropriate. It's not the right word, but um, so how was that feeling? And then you're going into the tournament, and you don't have to worry about anything. How were you guys rolling? Feeling good, I presume, or
oh yeah.
hoping,
I
hoping you
mean
were
that.
feeling good.
Yeah, I mean it was a good run. Like, we played well in all three games to win the conference. So yeah, that kind of put us back into the spot where we felt like, okay, we feel good about ourselves. Let's go play Babson, which I mean, I really think we got. This is the thing about the tournament is, like, you sit there and hope you get a good draw. I felt like 2022. I was like, that is a good draw. We're avoiding some of the teams that um, we know that we consistently in the tournament get matched at some point early, and it's better to play teams that you don't know than teams you do know and know you very well. But to go to Babson and then follow up with Middlebury, yeah, I was like, oof, we got we got an unlucky draw there. So I felt like we were a bit hard done there, but that's just part of the life of NCAA Division III tournament bracketing. And so uh, we made we put ourselves in a hole at Babson and just pulled out one of those things I recall, back in the early years of my tenure here, the the pressure that we put on Babson trying to come back was what I had seen Messiah do over and over again. Um, that that just expected to win, even when they were down. They're just like, until the last second happened. So that, I think that was a pivotal moment for our program to understand that we can dig ourselves back. It might look bleak, but we now have an experience and a history of getting that back in the 11th hour.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, so
That's a good point, because I do, like I said, I hate to compare, and I apologize, but like that was you've the year before, you found ways to win when you needed to win, and again, there's some things doesn't look so ugly, and I never got a sense of that this past year. But against Babson, it was like almost something went off. Like, we're not doing this again, right? As silly as that is, and you stuck to a game plan and get the 2 goals to tie it up to go to OT. I thought was very telling, and almost like a mind shift at some point, where it was like, we're not going down this road again. We're gonna battle back, and almost like a conviction there that, again, it was kind of neat to see. I love those points. Those just sort of like, hey, we believe. Look, at the 80th minute we score. We believe, right? And we got 10
yeah,
minutes. Let's go, right? And it was kind of neat to see.
and that was probably it probably also was helped developed by the F&M game, which we actually
Mm-hmm.
lost, but I mean, we were down big there
Mhm.
and started coming back. It looked like hey, we might dig this out in a crazy game. So that probably puts some sort of foundation in there that that was possible, and then
Mhm.
we just made it happen in the Babson game. So
Mhm.
thought
Um,
we might even make it happen in the Middlebury game. So
no, I thought you guys. I actually thought that Middlebury game. It. This is going to be terrible, and I'm sure they're not going to like me for this. But you know, there was something always about Middlebury that I was like I just wasn't. I wasn't convinced, and the game you played, like that was another example of where I was like, here's a team that's up two, scoreboard control, all that kind of stuff. They got it going for them, and I think they allowed you. Well, not to take anything away from you guys, but I think there was a little bit of just sort of like they allowed you to get back into a game that really, if they were as good as I think everyone was saying, I thought they would have ushered it a little bit better. Just sorry, Middlebury.
yeah, I mean, I can't speak to. I can only speak to like the decisions I've had to make on
Yeah,
this
yeah, yeah,
team
yeah.
and my experiences, and you can sometimes get faced. Well, should we do this or should we do that?
Hmm.
Like for example, me making the decision to move a winger back to center back.
Hmm.
I can't go back and choose another choice just to compare the two and go like, yeah, I definitely made the right decision, right? Uh, but we've seen due to our style, we've seen people choose different options of how to deal with it, whether to full out press like John Carroll did
Hmm.
in 22, or to sit all the way back like
Hmm.
Ursinus did against us
Yeah,
this year and got a victory, or go with a mid block.
yeah,
Um, so um, it's tough to know, but hindsight's 2020. So especially when you're playing, two games back to back, it then emphasizes, well, okay, our personnel, what we have, what do
yeah,
they have,
yeah,
uh, what's the best tactic, and so you know, uh, I can't say whether they, I mean, they won the game, so they
yeah,
got it
yeah,
right,
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
so. Uh,
Come on,
uh,
say something bad. No, I'm just kidding. You don't want to do
no, no,
that. Yeah.
uh,
Um, eh,
they're a great team.
yeah.
They had so much talent all over the field, and they were, you know, uh, big, athletic, talented,
Mhm.
very tough to deal with.
Yeah. Oh, no, don't get me wrong. It's always degrees, right? Like they're a great team and very worthy of their ranking and all that kind of stuff. But again, it's just a gut thing for me just watching like something is not like I said about Chicago this past year. I was like there was something that just didn't seem right to me. And you asked me what it was or what I put I just I couldn't like verbalize it. I just saw some things that I just like, yeah, that doesn't look healthy or good, not healthy, but not good. And like I said, it's just a gut feeling. So anyhow, all right. So what are your plans for the spring,
Well, our spring's over. So with the
or what were your plans for the spring?
uh, yeah, we totally utilized the new rule that we have more days in the spring, and I loved it. Uh, we were able to start when spring started up, and we would do very just 2 days a week, but it was good to have contact and stay in the lives of the guys a lot more actively, and just work on things without being the constant game rest of the season. So yeah, we enjoyed it. We worked on quite a few things. Feel like we developed a bit. We ended up playing Loyola, Maryland, which is right next door. Yeah, felt like there were a couple of guys that didn't play that much this past fall that really stepped up in that game. And I feel like the team also showed what they can do when everybody is putting it all on the line and have each other's back. And you know, that's a very powerful component that everybody understands, but few quite get it right. The kind of level of commitment towards each other, the level of commitment to say, "I've got your back," and you can trust me as well. You know, so I think we grew in that department.
So, see, in the spring, where do you think you're? I'll ask you about your recruiting class next, but what sort of trajectory do you see yourselves on, knowing that you're playing a lot of young guys, like for the 2020 fall season? I mean, do you feel like you're in one of those where you're like, hey, this is great, I think we're gonna be a lot better, or oh my gosh, we're losing X number of players and it's gonna be a little bit of a rebuilding year? Anything?
Yeah, I don't know if you're gonna like my answer here. Uh,
You're
I
off
don't
the
know.
channel.
Yeah, I don't know. A lot is going to depend on what these guys do over the summer. And so, if they take care of business, I think we're going to be a very strong team. Um, uh, we usually do take care of business. I just always push for the extremes. And so I believe, you know, humans are us are capable of great, great things, and we just don't realize it. Uh, we get bogged down and distracted so much that we don't really focus. Hey, I can do that. Much like Bannister in the 4 Minute Mile, saying, "You know what? I'm going to do something everybody else says is not possible." Uh, and every year I push our guys to aim towards that, right, and go for the impossible, which is to show up at preseason and everybody go, "Holy cow! Like, who can stop us?" Instead of like, "Yeah, we're good," but there's other teams out there that are pretty good. I believe actually there's a gap. Like if a team really puts it together, and I think, uh, man, I need to stop referencing this team, but in the heyday of Messiah, they probably were the closest ones to like fill in that gap where they showed up and did what they were asked of, instead of, yeah, I kind of did it, right. um so I think we'll be good if we get it done, and based on what happened in the spring, I think we will get it done. And we have a tough schedule, so we're going to need to be ready from the get-go, so we'll play Washington and Lee right off the get-go.
Yeah. Just right into the fire. Where is that? Is that going to be at Washington and Lee, or so you're
Yeah,
traveling?
yeah,
New coach.
yeah.
I'm actually speaking with Coach Singleton on Monday, so which will be interesting. But I don't think they're going to be bad just because they changed the coach.
No.
I think you're going to be in for a good battle.
Yeah.
Hey, what's the what last question? What's your recruiting class looking like?
It's good. It's not that big, so I think there's potential starters in there that would help us. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not a huge class. So in terms of that, they'll make an impact. They'll help us.
Mm-hmm.
We're still waiting. Sorry, excuse me. We're still waiting to see what might happen in terms of some grad transfers and some regular transfers. Uh, and it looks like we'll get the guys we want. If so, I feel very good about our class and our group of guys that we're bringing
Mm-hmm.
in.
Are you done, or are you still?
We're done with the undergraduates,
Yeah.
and we're still waiting on uh, 2 grad transfers to hear back whether they're going to be accepted or not.
Uh-huh.
And then the thing that we get results from the last point on the timetable would be regular transfers. So like a sophomore somewhere else.
Sophomore. Yeah, an entry. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, because I guess the grad transfers, they're applying into grad school, right? Like they wouldn't necessarily. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So we don't typically know what's going to happen until it happens. So we kind of wait and see, like if they get in, they call and say, I got in. Okay, you coming? I'm coming. Okay, great. Or no, I'm going here or the other place.
Yeah.
Thanks. We've lost a few of those, and we've got a couple. So.
Well, I was just going to say, I would have transferred to Johns Hopkins, but, I keep getting the rejection letter. So, it's hard to transfer to Johns Hopkins when I keep getting rejected.
That does happen. Yeah.
And right now my toss up is between, I'll try again, but it's between you and a community college that I don't think has any grade requirements that I can get into.
Well, you got your safety school lined up.
I so wish I could go back to school. I'm serious. Like now, what a great 4 years. It doesn't matter. Like, come on. What a life to live.
Is that not the case with a lot of things though? It's not just.
Okay.
I feel like that of high school too.
Yeah.
Like,
Totally. Yeah.
People in high school are like, I can't wait to get to college, and then in college probably thinking too much. I'm done with this. I can't wait to get out. But then you look back and go like,
yeah, totally.
I wish I could do. I don't know if I can think back to go. I wish I could do kindergarten again. But
no, that's a little too far for me.
Yeah.
I think I would do all over from 4th grade, because that's when I moved to Spain. I would do 4th grade on. It was great time in my life. I loved it. But yeah, anyhow. Don't get me I'll get all depressed now. Like, I'm old. Like,
Does anybody get more off topic than me? Do I send you on tangents?
Yeah. I love that. That to me is my favorite part. Which, speaking of tangents, so we're going to take this conversation onto Patreon for a little bit longer. I'd like to cover a couple of topics with you. The NCAA index or power index, the change to the tournament. Yeah, pairwise. I'd like to talk penalty kicks, because I still have the conversation we had it's still in my head. Still think about it all the time. Way too much time. And then maybe a couple other topics. So if anyone's interested, come on over to Patreon and we'll wrap the conversation up. If you want to catch the rest of this interview, you can hop on over to the D3Soccer.fans Patreon page, where I'll be talking to Coach Appleby about the NCAA, recent rule changes, and a real interesting conversation around penalty kicks and taking them and what does it mean. Hope you enjoyed this so far, and hope to catch you on Patreon.